Hello and welcome to Parkway. My name's Jeff and this is my large N-gauge loft layout, and in this video I'm going to be turning my attention to installing a level crossing. It's right behind the camera. I'll put a quick picture in now so you can see what I've been working on. And yeah, it's took up quite a bit of time, a little bit more time than I was expecting it to take, but it's been quite hot over the last couple of weeks as well, so that slowed things down here in the loft. But as always, if you've got any comments, any thoughts, any suggestions, pop them down below. To my regular subscribers, thank you for your continued support, and to the new subscribers, the channel is growing and I do appreciate that. A huge thank you, huge welcome. The one thing a few people have commented on is sound in my videos. Because this started off just me using my phone, I never really took the sound that seriously, so that I didn't take it seriously, I just didn't give it a huge amount of thought. This is the last video where I'm relying on the sound coming from the camera. I have purchased a small microphone, so from my next video onwards, hopefully that will improve the sound quality. And the choice of music that I use, I've also changed that, so there's no music in this video apart from right at the very end, but from the next video that will change as well. So hopefully that gives you a reason to come back. And as always, thanks guys, and let's jump straight into the video. Right guys, so today's the day I'm going to start work on the track detailing and also putting in this road through here and the level crossing. So jumping straight in with this road and level crossing, I've got a nice flat surface here. I've put in some foam board and then I use sculpt and mold to kind of build up an embankment to it here. If you remember, this is going to be my campsite over here, and this is where my hatch is, hence the big gap at the moment. Now, so what I'm going to be using for my road surface is the same as what I used in my town scene, and it is these scale scenes printed road surfaces. You download, it's a download from the Scale Scenes website. It's not very expensive at all. It's roads and pavements kit, and once you've bought it once, you can print off as many copies and use it as many times as you want. Now what you get is lots of different surfaces. So you get a plain tarmac sheet, which is just like this but without any of the lines. You get this one with the red and yellow lines on it. There's a full sheet, no it's not, that's a sheet that's got a zebra crossing on it and a box junction and some no parking signs. And then there's a full sheet of different road types, and that's a pavement sheet that you get with the pavements. You just cut that out, wrap it around some 1mm grey board, put it down, that's your pavement. And that also comes with road signs, little traffic islands, cones, all that kind of stuff as well. So it's a great kit, and that's what I'm going to use. So basically we'll have the paper road, sorry, just moving out of the way, coming up to here. Then we'll have the level crossing, and then again we'll have the paper road continuing. Now I've got a little gap at the back there. I'm going to try and get creative and do with a picture and try and make it look the road goes off into the background and into that back scene. And for the actual level crossing itself, I do have a Train Tech level crossing, so it will be a light and sound level crossing that's going to go in here. So the first thing I had to think about was, if I've got the road going up here, what am I going to use for this part where the tracks are? One of the options would be, of course, to use filler, cover the whole thing in filler and score the lines in where the track's going to be. I'm not a big fan of that method. I just, in N-gauge, because again it's small, it's fiddly, I don't want to be filling things with filler, so I want to keep it as reliable as possible. So I'm going to be using plasticard to create the part that covers the tracks. So I've already cut out the pieces because I've been having to play around to work out what would work best. So let me show you what I'm going to be using. So I've got a combination here of some 1mm thick plasticard and also some 1/2mm thick plasticard as well. And the way I've worked out that I'm going to do this, let me just move the camera a little bit closer so you can see. There we go. Oh, he says as he knocks the camera over. There we go. So basically what I'm going to do is I have a piece of 1/2mm here, and I've basically glued another strip of 1/2mm onto there, so that basically when you look at the profile on from the side, it's 1/2mm at this side and it's 1mm at that side. I've created two of them, so that's the two of them. Then I've created 3 pieces from the 1mm card, and that is what's going to be in the middle. So basically what we'll have, going from back to front, so we have the 1/2mm with the 1mm piece, and that is going to sit right up to the tracks just there like that. Now it's only 1/2mm at this side height difference, so by the put the paper road right up to that, that will work really, really well. Then I've got a piece 6mm wide to go in there. Now what I ideally would have had was 6.5mm. I tried 7, it wasn't right. 6 is a bit smaller than it should be, but trying to cut 0.5mm, you're cleverer than me if you can do that. So we've gone for 6mm and I'm happy with that. I want plenty of wheel clearance. Then I've got another piece of 1mm, which is going to go in the middle, and it just slots in like that. Another piece 6mm wide of 1mm to go there. And then finally we have one of these pieces of 0.5mm with the extra bit glued on, and that sits there. And if nothing's glued down, obviously you've just seen me put it there, but if I just push 2 Mark IV coaches through, you can see they glide through there absolutely no problem at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these downstairs. I'm going to get these painted grey, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the road surface, the printed road surface I've just shown you, up to the level crossing, and then I'm going to have these spray painted grey, and then we'll add some weather effects later on with the airbrush. And I'm going to use vinyl stickers, road marking stickers that I got from Scale Model Scenery, to put the various marks on this. Quick update on where we are with the level crossing. So I've painted the tracks, the rails, through the level crossing using my Rail Match Dark Rust, and I've also put a little bit of Woodland Scenics grey ballast just between the tracks, just down there. Now I've not glued that down yet, but I will glue that down tonight. And then tomorrow, once that's dry, I'm just going to mask this area off with some paper just to keep it so I've only got the crossing, and then I'm just going to hit it with some Rail Match sleeper grind. And the whole purpose of that is just so that when you can see any gaps through the level crossing, I just want to be sure there's no shiny new Pico track shown through underneath. Now in addition to that, I've also all these pieces of plasticard. They have all now been primed with grey primer. And now the next job that I want to do is to work out my road that's going to be on here. So what I'm using is I took the full sheets of Scale Scenes paper, road paper, and I'm just using this first lane. I've cut them out really generally. I'm just using a craft knife, so I've got 2 strips there ready to go. Now you'll notice that these have got an arrow on, and I don't want the arrow. So what I'll do is I'll lie these down, and then where the arrow is, if I just move the camera around ever so slightly so you can see, here, we'll overlap them and we'll cut off the bits with the arrows. Now the one thing you must remember with this paper is when you cut it, you need to cut through both pieces at the same time, otherwise you'll never get a joint that matches. So lie your 2 pieces over the top, work out where you want the joint to be, cut across, so you're cutting through both pieces at the same time, and then you'll get a perfect match for the 2 pieces of paper to go together. And one other absolutely vital thing to do with this Scale Scenes paper is just to run around all the edges with a grey felt tip pen. Now I use a grey Sharpie, I find that works really well, but play around, see what you like best. And I just go down the edges, so basically hold the paper up like this, and then just run the Sharpie down the edge, including where your joins are, because you don't want to have any white edges showing. So I've cut out here a double white line, and that is going to sit here on the crossing. Now obviously if I just glued that down, you would see the white edges. So what you do is, again with your Sharpie, you just run down all the edges, get rid of all the white edges, and then when you glue that down, you'll not be able to tell that's pieces of paper glued together. This does work really well. So I'm going to crack on for now. I'm going to get this painted like I've just described. I'm going to get this road all cut out and kind of the bits that I need put together, and then I'll come back to you. So I'm going to start getting the track infrastructure in as well. I've actually already made a start on it. If you look in front of you, you will see these grey boxes going all the way down the track. Now they are going to be the concrete bases for my catenary, and I'm going to do a separate video on catenary. It's going to be a pretty simple video because this is N-gauge and you don't have a huge amount of choice. So I will be using the Dapple catenary mass in most of the layout, and I'm going to be using a little bit of N brass in other places, but as I say, more about that later. The reason I had them at this point is because obviously when we put ballast down, ground cover and so on, we want that to go all the way around those bases. The other reason that we do it is I like to have my cable trunking running at the back of that as well. For the cable trunking, I'm actually going to be using something different. Now when I did the TMD and station side, I used the ratio plastic kits, and I've since come across this from N Scenic, And I wasn't sure about it at first, but I thought I'll order one, I'll have a look and see what it is. And it comes with some relay boxes in there, and then you've got the cable trunk in and the junctions for the cable trunk in. And actually I'm really impressed with it, and I'll tell you why I'm impressed with it. I've cut one piece out to have a look at, and this is it. It doesn't look much at the minute when it's just in its wood state, but once it's painted up and weathered, what I love about it, if you look, it's bendy. The ratio one is solid plastic, just bends. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, hopefully it's showing you on the camera how flexible it is. So any bends and corners or anything, obviously that's just me playing around there to show you how much it bends, but you can bend this stuff any which way you want. And the other thing I like about this, now I've broke this ever so slightly at one end when I've took it off the packaging, but you also get two pieces which have no lids on. Now I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick this up, but if I turn that around, hopefully you can see there's no lids. Now they don't provide you with lids because they'll be far too small. So all I'm going to do is cut out some paper, paint it grey. I might actually try and buy some grey paper, and just place them on the top, and then you can have lids off, which in N gauge, that's pretty special. I know you can do that in double O gauge, but in N gauge, that's really good. So I've worked out I'm going to need 3 packs of this. One of the problems of having such a big layout is you need 3 of everything. So I've ordered 2 more of them, along with some other bits and pieces like some fencing and gates and stuff like that as well. So we'll get them installed. And then the other job that I need to do, of course, is to get the track painted, or how I wish I'd painted it before I put it down. But I've got my rail match rust. This is the dark rust, and I'm going to go along with the brush and get that all painted. So that's the road in place, the footpath's down, and also the track work here has been sprayed with a sleeper grind, and then I've cleaned the top of the rails once that was dry with the track rubber. It's obviously very heavily painted there, but you won't see most of that because that's where the level crossing is going to be. Now turn our attention now to the actual part that's going to form the level crossing. Now you saw this earlier when I just sprayed it with my grey primer, so that gave it a nice base colour, but what I wanted was something that was much closer to the actual colour of the road. So I very lightly misted it with some black aerosol, just some Humbrol that I had, and then I went over the top of it with a sponge and 2 different shades of grey paint that I had. This is dry now, but you can see the 2 shades of paint and a little sponge, and I just randomly dabbed it. And what that's now created is a colour that's very, very similar to the actual road. It's as close as I can get it. So if I just peel the first part of the level crossing off to show you, pop that in there, and you get a colour that you can see there. It's very similar. It looks a little bit darker on the camera, but in real life it's very, very similar to this colour. It's probably as close as I'm going to get it, so I'm very happy with how good it is. So the next job is I'm going to lie in all of the pieces for the level crossing, and then using some thin masking tape I'm going to mark where different things would be. So for example, there'd be a masking tape line up there because that's where the footpath area is going to be, and that would have a white line running down it, and then there'd be a double line through the middle. And I'm looking at different pictures at the minute, and I can't decide whether to make it a box junction over the crossing or not, because we have got a turn in just down here off the camera into the campground, and then we've got a farm track there, and eventually the entrance to the heritage station over there, so we don't want people stopping on the crossing. And I found pictures online of both, so I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. But to put on the markings onto this plastic, I've got some scale model scenery realistic road markings. These are the double yellow lines, but they actually come out as single yellow lines. And I've got some of their water slide transfers for car park markings as well. And you just cut out what you need, dip it in a bit of water and slide it into place. So I'm going to have a play around with these and see which one comes up best. So as you can see, I've masked up this area here. So we've got the 2 footpath areas masked up there, and then the first of the double line that I need down the middle. Now I realise I don't have anything to do the double line, so I'm trying to do that with masking tape and paint. We'll see which one works out the best. If it doesn't work, I'll just go over it with some grey and reapply. It's simple, it's not a big deal. That's the level crossing painted and in place. I ended up using white paint, just some white acrylic paint and some masking tape, and then I used the yellow self-adhesive lines to create kind of a box junction. I did lots of research online, and I found quite a good YouTube channel, and the name of it escapes me at the moment, but I'll put it down in the description. But basically it's UK level crossings. There's loads of the videos at level crossings, so I watched quite a few of those to get an idea of how it should be, so I'm happy with how that's worked out. I've also hit it with some weathering powder to tone down the lines, and also to leave kind of some tyre tracks as well. Hopefully you can see of where the cars have been going over it. As you've just seen in that clip, trains are running absolutely fine. It's all fastened down. It did get hit with some matte varnish as well, just to see it all in place. And the next job is to turn our attention to these Train Tech warning lights that are going to go on here, and the barriers and all that kind of stuff. So let me get on with that. So I'm just looking at this Train Tech level crossing kit, and it seems pretty straightforward. You can either control it using a switch, control it through DCC, or if you're a double oil gauge modeler, you can use the Train Tech track sensors and use them as well. I'm going to use mine running from a 12 volt power supply, and I'm going to run it on a switch, I think is the best option for this side of the layout. So one of the things I just wanted to point out regarding the pack, basically what you get included is 2 Pico level crossing barriers with the flashing heads on there. Obviously they don't flash, they're just plastic. And then you get some little fences, and also the little white plastic base. And what you would do is you would fasten the fence into there, then next to that you would put your level crossing, and then that would sit down there. Now I don't want white plastic, so I've painted it black so that it'll just tie in a little bit more with the tarmac. And I've bought 2 of the sensors that are going to flash. However, and that's them there, I've just been sitting painting the top of them red and white, which was a nightmare. I mean, if I compare the size of that to the size of my little finger, it's absolutely tiny to paint. But anyway, they're painted. And one of the things I just wanted to point out to you now, because I'm going to have double barriers here and here. Now the ones on this side won't flash because they're facing that way, so you won't see anything, but the 2 on this side will flash. And what you do is you take the barrier as it comes, and you cut off the top bit, the flashing element, and then you mount through the baseboard this, so that the working element becomes the new flashing head. So if you imagine, it's going to be kind of like that, but behind. And one of the things that I've realised is, because the way this gives you 2 of these barriers, you would be basically, you'd have one there and one on that side. Now that means I can't put 2 of them together because the flashing head's on the wrong side. If I put that there, it would be backwards. So what I've actually had to do is chop the head off and just use some plastic weld glue to swap one of the heads around to the other way, so that I've now got a matching set, which will go on that side, and then the working ones will go on this side. Hopefully that makes sense, but I just wanted to point that out, that you do need to get a little bit creative. And then these 2 here that I've got, we'll just chop the heads off them and use these. Now I've got a slight problem with these, and that is they should have mounting cups, and the mounting cups are missing. So I've called Train Tech today. They were amazing. They've posted them out first class today for me, so little bit of a pause on these until the mounting cups arrive. So I'm going to carry on with some track detailing, and then we'll come back and get this installed. The other thing I'm going to do, just to make life a little bit easier, is I'm just going to get some basic scenery in at either side of the road here as well, just because then we've got a complete scene in this area. So I'll crack on and I'll be back shortly. Right, quick update on the track detailing. I'm probably about 80% there. So all the track behind the camera has been painted with a rust paint. I've just got this last stretch here to do. In addition to that, all of the cable trunking's down. Now if you remember when I showed you that earlier, it comes in wood form. I've then sprayed it with a grey primer, then gone over it and dry brushed it using the Rail Match concrete paint, this stuff, and I've dry brushed that on because obviously I didn't want to lose any of the detail. One thing that I have done differently to my last video, now I'm going to put a link down below and up above to my track detailing video that I did before, because a lot of what I did before is relevant again. But I used this thick orange wire last time. It was wire wrapped in a heat shrink and then painted orange because I couldn't think of anything else to use. But I've since discovered this stuff. Expo super flexible fine cable. It's 10 meters in here. It's orange, and this is a much better scale than what I was using. Now I'm not going to change it in the other areas, but moving forward this is what I'm going to use. And you can see I've put it in here. It's already installed, but it's loose at the ends, and I will basically, once I've ballasted, I'll lie that over the top of the ballast and connect it into the trunk and at both sides. I do got some relay boxes to put in. I also need to go back over all of this cable trunking and just hit it with the Humbrol dark grey wash, just so that it doesn't all look so new. I've fitted 2 signals around these points, one here and one further down. These are the gauge master signals, and they use the Heathcote electronics sensors. I've just got my finger over the sensor there when it changed. Again, I'll put a link down below and up above to the fitting of these signals, because they're super simple to install. And yeah, I'm going to crack on with this, include some relay boxes. I have abolished my plan to have a disused single box over there. I'm now going to make that just into a bit of a network rail area with some vans parked up and ballast piled up and track and all that kind of stuff, a little bit overgrown. That's the plan now for that area. Who knows, it might change again. Anything's possible, but let me crack on, get this finished, get the level crossing finished, and then I'll be back. So I've been busy with this level crossing. Got a little bit carried away, as you know, as I do now and then. So the barriers are now in. I've put some basic landscaping around, with some fences in, some hedges, a little bit of scatter material, some more hedges over there, tree. I've also decided that my disused signal box, which was going to go down the other end of the layout, is actually going to sit here now. And you'll see in some of the pictures I put on at the end of the video, I think it works really well, sits really nicely there. And the other thing I've done is I've now installed the 2 working flashing crossing heads. Now I was going to video this, but in all honesty, it's the simplest thing ever. These are the instructions, and you literally push the wires into one, wires into the other, push the speaker in, and then connect it to your switch. It couldn't be simpler. I'm rubbish at electrics, and I found it really easy. The only thing I had a slight issue with was with the speaker. Now the speaker wire is multi-strand wire, and the wire that they recommend you use that comes with it, there's a small sample piece, is single strand wire. So I've just pulled the end off there, so hopefully you can see that. And because that's single strand, it just pushes in and holds. Because this is multi-strand, it doesn't, and I was having a nightmare getting this wire in to stay in. So all I did was cut 2 pieces of this about 2 centimeters long, soldered it onto the end of these, bit of heat shrink over it to make sure we don't get any shorts, and then because that was then a thicker single core, it then just plugged in and worked really well. It's going to just work on 12 volt DC and 16 volt smooth DC, and it's going to have a switch. So that's slowed things down a little bit this week because I've been waiting for some switches to come. I thought I had some and I didn't. I didn't have any on off. I only had on off on momentary switches. So I've now got on off switches, and I have built, if I move the camera around, whoop, it's still shiny because the paint's still drying on it, just a little area here that I can put these toggle switches into for the lights that are going to go on this side of it, and also the level crossings. And I just want to keep it simple. I just want to flick a switch and it works. What I haven't done is I haven't installed anything on the barriers. So the barriers are manual. I will open and close them for photos and so on. I could have put servers on them to try and get them to work. Because it's N-gauge, I think using servers would be quite fiddly. I'm not sure it's going to work, and if I've done my maths right, it would cost me £120 to buy the Train Tech server motors that I would need to install on there, and just frankly other things I'd rather spend £120 on. So I'm quite happy for that to be as it is. I think it'll look good with the siren and the lights flashing when a train goes by, so that's all good. And the next thing I need to do, or actually you can probably notice I've ballasted some of the track as well. It's literally just the track that goes through this level crossing area, just because I wanted to create a bit of a scene. Now one thing I do want to tackle, so I need to get this wired in, And then the last thing I want to do is over at this back area over here, there's a weird gap in the back scene, so I want to try and do something with some pictures off Google Maps to try, and not Google Maps, Google Images, you know what I mean, to try and make that look a little bit better. So when I've got a camera set down here in the road looking straight through and under the bridge, it'll look a little bit more realistic. Oh, and one other thing I need to do is I need to get some signage on as well. We have no signage on this level crossing or an approach to it, and we've got no signage, height warnings or anything like that on this bridge neither, so we'll get them done and then I'll come back to you. That's the button in for the level crossings. It's just an on-off switch, toggle switch, connected to my 12-volt power supply. And if I pan the camera back to the level crossing, so you can see, and then flick the switch, that's working, and only 7 seconds that the sound siren plays, and then it'll just keep flashing until I switch it off. So nice and simple. Next thing I've done is turn my attention to this very, very back area. It's quite hard to see from this camera angle, but we just had a big bit of blue board at the back there. What I've done is I've just painted it green just to stop it being so garish, and then I've printed out, I just did an internet search for country roads and roads disappearing and scenic roads, that kind of thing, and just playing with different roads that's going to go into there. Now you're going to have to use a bit of imagination here because I can't get the camera in the right position, but I eventually found one that I liked, printed it off on photo paper, so it's a good quality, and that there is going to be the road that's going to sit in. It's going to sit on a slight angle, and then we're going to put some bushes and foliage around it either side, so that it just looks like it disappears off. You're probably going to have to take my word for this and just wait until the end of the video when you can see the picture of what it actually looks like, but it does work. So I'm going to crack on with that. Okay, so we're pretty much there with the level crossing. I've added some street lights in along here, as you can see. I've also added some signs in, and these signs are absolutely tiny. So you've got level crossing warning sign there. You have another one up here, which is telling you that there's overhead power cables and maximum height restriction. I've added some keep crossing clear signs. Let me see if I can move the camera a little closer. Some keep crossing clear signs just on the barriers here. I've added a sign on there with emergency information. You can see this sign here. Hopefully you can see by my fingers just how tiny everything is. I've added a couple of people into the scene as well, and I've added some extra bushes just behind this signal box. And then over on the other side I've added some height warnings onto this bridge. Also added a little bit of rust, and if I just come back, if I can get the right camera angle, I will get some still pictures of this. Bring it back and focus. You can now see the road leading off under the bridge as it goes off. And let me see if I can, sorry for bring the camera around, it's really difficult to get into this, but there you can see the force perception of put my teeth in, and as the road appears to disappear off. Now that will need a couple of big trees in it once I get on with some more scenic work, but I don't actually have any big trees at the moment, because if I come up higher you can see where the road is. It just looks a little bit weird, but once it's got a couple of big trees over the top of it. But from down here on running shots at the level crossing, that works. You can see the road going off. So I'm going to insert a couple of running shots now, insert a couple of photos as well, so you can see all the details finished. And as always guys, thanks for your support. Thank you to all of my subscribers, new and old. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll be back soon. And I've got a little bit of a taste for some scenic work now, so I'm going to turn my attention to this mass of brown down here and turn it green in the next video. So I will see you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching guys. Bye bye.